morning, friends. So today I wanted to bring you guys along with me during a day throughout my dedicated study period. If you did not catch my video on USMLE Step 1 and exactly what a dedicated study period is for a medical student, please click on the link to check out that video. But long story short, we are dedicated weeks in our academics through at various points in our education in order to study for our licensing exams, our board exams they're called. They're the USMLE exams. And the school gives you X amount of weeks to prepare and study for these exams. These are weeks in which you have absolutely no responsibilities other than to study for this exam and to do well on it. So I am currently in that dedicated study period. First stop of the day. So there are 3 of the USMLE licensing exams. We call them step exams. So 3 steps we need to take in order to become like a licensed physician in the United States. So I am preparing currently for my step 1 exam. So the first of the series. So I'm currently in now week 2 of my dedicated study period. So now that I've finally kind of hit my stride and I know what I'm doing every day, I feel a lot more comfortable in my dedicated right now. I figured I'd bring you guys along just to show you a little bit more about like what the day-to-day of a medical student in dedicated looks like, because you guys, it is no fun. I'm really like boiling it down to like the most basic of descriptions of what it's like, but you'll see, you know, a little bit in this video. But dedicated study means dedicated study, you guys. Like, we are studying like 12 hours a day. There's nothing else going on other than for me to study for this exam. So my dedicated study period is 5 weeks long, and I'm currently in week 2 right now. So like I said, I've become kind of a pro at this day-to-day repetitiveness of dedicated study periods. So we're gonna go in and get started today. Today I'm gonna be studying at my school because a lot of like public places, Starbucks, a lot of other libraries that I would typically go to study are not as open or accommodating anymore because of the pandemic. So kind of options are limited. So we got to do what we got to do. And another thing about dedicated study period, you guys, is you see medical students at like their lowest of their low, you guys. Like, you're lucky you got this cute little sweater out of me today, because I don't have any makeup on. I don't know the last time I touched makeup. You know, I'm grateful I'm even showered today. It's just, you're studying all the time. Like, and when you're not studying, you feel like you should be studying. So there's not much time for much else. Let me just show you guys my typical dedicated fit. So this sweater, cute sweater, is a bonus, you guys. I put that on just for you. This is not typical. I'd be in a hoodie or a crew neck or something super basic typically. And then you could see it's just a party down here. You know what's going on. We have sweats, we have fuzzy socks, we have moccasins. Like don't catch me outside during dedicated, you guys. And if you do, just walk past, you know, like you don't see me. It's stressful. It's stressful time right now, you know, like please forgive me. I'll do better in 5 weeks when I'm off dedicated. Okay guys, so what I like to do is grab one of these small group rooms right here, and this will be my study place for the day. So you can see that it has a whiteboard, tables. It has everything I really need to get in some like hardcore studying today. So this room, this exact room, has kind of been my like home plate for the last week or so in my dedicated. I have so many things, so many things in this backpack, you guys. It's so heavy. It's been throwing my back out, but my first aid, my iPad, my schedule, my laptop, like there's so much to set up. My binder of resources, gotta get my AirPods, my mouse, like the whole setup needs to be out on the table and ready so that I'm not disrupted during my studying. You know, I could just grab right here whatever I need. Like, the thing about being in dedicated is that it's it has to like flow, right? Like your day has to be very predictable, right? So like you kind of get in a groove, get in a system that works for you, and that's when you're most effective. So like I like routines. Well, I don't like routines, but I need routines, right? So like I found something that works for me, you know, like coming to the same place, laying all my things out, like doing the same thing every day. And that helps me kind of like check my bases and make sure I'm doing everything that I want to do and nothing's missing. If I stray from the routine, then who knows what's gonna happen, you know what I mean? So that's why I kind of just like to do the same thing every single day. I even put my Carmex out on the table, like to gloss my lips so that I don't have to like get up and go in my backpack and find it. Like this is how down to the detail I am, you guys, about this. I also did a whole video about my USMLE Step 1 study plan, you guys. So I'm not going to be talking about that in this video, but please check that video out if you wanted more details, like in-depth details about how exactly I'm tackling Step 1 and what my study plan looks like, what resources I'm using, all of those details. It's a very like thorough video that I uploaded about my study plan. So today I'm just gonna speak more specifically about what it is I'm studying today, which part of my study plan I'm in, and more so just to show you guys kind of like the day in a dedicated study, you know, like, and really just how boring and focused it is. Like, there's really not much going on except for studying, drinking coffee, pulling my hair out, answering questions all day. Like, that's the bulk of the day that you guys are gonna see, so strap in. All right guys, so now it's about 8:30. I'm a little bit behind schedule, but that's okay. Like I always make it up. But today I will be starting the cardiovascular system. So cardiology, everything heart related, which I'm really excited for because although it's a very tough system, it's one that I like really like and enjoy. It's also super high yield on Step 1. In general, like in medicine, like the heart is the pump of the body, right? Like it's a super high yield system. So this is, you know, a system that I want to make sure I know like in and out, you guys. So in dedicated, unfortunately, everything is expedited, right? Like dedicated is not the time in which you should be learning a system, right? It's the time in which you're reviewing a system, right? You should have, in theory, learned everything in your first 2 years of medical school, and now you are just reviewing everything you learned and taking a comprehensive standardized test about everything you've learned. So for example, in my dedicated schedule, I've only allocated 3 days to the cardio system. So 3 days to learn embryology, anatomy, physiology, pathology, pharmacology, everything heart related. Like it's a lot, you guys. Like, so this is why when we talk about like dedicated, like the dedicated study period of a medical student, I have to learn all of those things in 3 days, but then I also have to do rinse and repeat for the gastrointestinal system, for the endocrine system, for the pulmonary system, like the whole body, you know? So it's a very intense time for us to really like learn and review everything we need to know to take literally the most important test of our lives, all in a, you know, 5 to 8 week time period. So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and get started. So yeah, so like I said, I'm doing cardio today. So how I usually structure my day, and like I said, this is all talked about more in depth in my study plan video, but how I structure my day is I start the morning with content review. So being that I am starting cardio today, I use Boards and Beyond, and I am going to do about 2 hours of content review. So I'm gonna sit, watch videos about anatomy, physiology of the cardio system, like refer to my first aid, look at my notes, like kind of just refresh my memory about everything I learned 2 years ago about the cardiovascular system. And then that's where I start, so with my content review, and then I, you know, spend mostly the rest of my day answering questions, doing UWorld, like applying the content that I reviewed in the beginning of the day to questions, and making sure that I not only like remember and, you know, retained the content that I reviewed in the morning, but also that I'm able to answer questions about it, right? Because at the end of the day, this is still a standardized test, and it's not always about exactly what you know or remember. It's about like if your test taking skills, and if you can remember and apply what you learn to answer a question. So yeah, so that's where I'm starting. I'm gonna jump right into my content review for cardiology. So let's get to it. Oh, also you guys, quick note. I downloaded this app during my second year of medical school that I've found to be super helpful in my studying. So it's called Forest. You can see it right here. And it has been so helpful, you guys. So basically what you do is it's to encourage like focused study and uninterrupted time where you don't like touch or entertain your cell phone. So what you do is you set a time, like a time period in which you want to focus. So usually I'll do like 2 hours or 1 hour, depending on, you know, what I want to do. And you plant a tree. So you can pick what kind of tree you want to plant. You start the timer, and basically it plants this tree, and it's a clock, like it's a countdown. And if you open your phone and leave the app, like you can close your phone, but if you open your phone and go into any other app or anything else on your phone, your tree will wither and die. So it's like, it's supposed to encourage you and positive reinforcement to like not be distracted by your phone, which is a huge problem for us these days, right? It's a huge problem on a dedicated study period because we're so linked to these things, and I don't need to like tell you guys just how much, you all know, but we are so connected to these dang devices that it's really hard for a medical student during a dedicated study period to like not touch their phone all day and to really like have deep focus on the material that they need to learn. So I feel like this app has really helped me as a person who gets very easily distracted by everything, my phone, a fly on the wall, like if there's a distraction in sight, I'm locked in on it. So this app has really helped me, and you know, it helps me just like, okay, like you have a tree planting, you know, you don't want that tree to die, whatever. You could also add friends and like plant trees together for like group study. So it's just been really cool, and I like to plug it. And if you guys are on Forest, leave me a comment below. Let me know your username, or like let's link up, add me as a friend, because let's encourage like deep focus, deep study, and I'd love to plant some trees with you guys. So with that being said, look how I already got distracted. I'm just gonna plant my tree and get back to my work. So I think 2 hours will do it. So you can see here the cardio videos I'm watching. So I just started here at the top, and I'll literally just watch all of these videos as part of my content review. I also love Boards and Beyond because it shows you the corresponding first aid page numbers. So I can just refer to my first aid here, which you can see I have all marked up already from my first 2 years of medical school. So literally I'm just reviewing the content and then looking at my notes that I have already made when I actually did this system. So it's pure review. So you guys can see here where I'm at in my video process. So I'm on the second video right now. I just watched it. And another thing that's always so mind-boggling to me and dedicated is like just how much you realize that you've learned. Like, this is a lot of stuff, you guys. Like, it's really not to be underestimated. Like, medical students learn so much freaking material, and it's not until you're preparing for these board exams that you're reviewing everything you've learned that's like, holy crap, like maybe I did learn a thing or two, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know it at the time, but wow, like I have learned a lot. And realizing just how much you've learned, and more importantly, like finally making those connections during dedicated is always really like encouraging and positive reinforcement to keep going when you're tired and like you want to stop studying, because I didn't realize just how much I didn't understand when I was learning it the first time around, that I was kind of just like memorizing things just to take the tests. And it's not until kind of you learn everything and start like putting the pieces together, like, you know, you learn the heart and you learn the kidneys and you realize like just how interconnected all of our like body systems are, and just why like you had to learn every single detail, right? Like it all does come together like during your dedicated study period, and that's always like super cool to be like, whoa, like I get it now. Like I didn't get it then, but I get it now, and that's all that matters. So back to studying, guys. All right, guys, so I just hit like my 2-hour mark for content review. So as per my schedule, that would be it then for the day, and I would just go right into questions. However, and this is what I mean about you really have to be flexible with your dedicated schedule, right? And this is not to say you should not be jumping all over the place and totally not sticking to your schedule, but just like little things. If you need to finish a video, if you need to finish a section in order to be like more complete in your content review, then do so. Just don't throw your schedule off by like hours or days, you know what I mean? But where I'm leaving off in this cardio block, it just like, it doesn't sit right with my spirit. I just don't like leaving things off like incomplete or in the middle of something. So I am actually going to take another like 30 minutes just to be thorough and complete the section I'm working on, and then I will go into my questions. So with that, I'm just gonna do a little bit more content review just for thoroughness sake. And then we will jump into some questions, okay? Okay guys, finished my content review. Let me see what my trees are looking like. Okay, it has 40 seconds left. Okay, so after content review, then I am going to get into questions. So this app like really just keeps track of how much I'm studying throughout the day. So it says I've done 2 hours and 45 minutes actually of study today, and I've only done content review. So clearly I went a little over my allocated 2 hours, which is okay. Like for me, you know, like I adapt my schedule day to day depending on what I'm doing, how much I need. Look at my forest, you guys. Look at my cute little trees. I love it. So next thing on the agenda is to do questions. Okay, so what that means basically is that I now am done with the content review portion of my day, and now I'm going to do like just do questions and practice answering questions. So how I typically do this is that questions are done in 40 question blocks. So a block of 40 UWorld questions, that's the application we use. And what I do for the first block of questions is I do system specific questions for that day. So being that I'm on cardio today, I'm going to do 40 questions about cardio. So only cardio questions. So content specific questions from what I reviewed for the day. So in UWorld, you can select what you want to do, what kind of questions you want to do. So I'm all subjects, but when I get here to systems, I'm going to choose cardiovascular system. I'm going to do 40 questions because that's the max you're allowed to do. And then I'm going to generate a block of questions, and I do them on study mode. So basically you answer one question, it gives you the explanation, answer another question, give you the explanation. So that is like the next portion of the day, and 40 questions may not seem like a lot, you guys, but it can take anywhere upwards of like an hour and a half if you're super quick. In tutor mode, this is in tutor mode, so you're going one by one by one. It could take anywhere from an hour and a half like minimum to 3 hours to get through 40 questions, because the thought process behind it, and I'll show you after I do this question as an example, is that you are supposed to learn from questions, right? It's a way to test yourself and your application, your clinical reasoning, all of that. So you want to read through the explanations that it gives like thoroughly, even if you got it right. You know, you need to make sure you understand that why you got it right, and more importantly, why the other answers are wrong. So that's just a standardized test taking strategy. Like you not only need to get the answer right, but you need to make sure it wasn't just a lucky guess, and you need to understand, more importantly, why the other answers are wrong, because you can easily think you know something and then it's asked a different way and you're like, oh no, I was more so memorizing the right answer instead of knowing why the wrong answers are wrong. So I'm gonna do this question as an example, and then we could kind of like review it. So for me, what I like to do when I'm tackling a question is I always read the last sentence of the question stem first. So, you know, it'll give you an entire like vignette, a paragraph. Sometimes they're short, sometimes they're long. I read the last thing of the stem first. So whether it's a question or whatever, it gives me a sense of what the main point is, right? Usually, even when you're writing a paper or an essay or something, right? The first paragraph, the last sentence is usually a summary of like what's going on, what you're going to be discussing in this paper. Same thing for a question. The last sentence, the last question of a stem is usually the point, right? What they're going to look for. So I look at that first, and then I review my answer choices. Gives me a sense of like, okay, this is the point of the stem, this is the point of the question, these are the options that they're giving me for answers. And sometimes that allows me to, as I go back and read the question, it gives me a sense of direction as to where I might want to go, or what I think might be going on based on the options that they gave me for answers. So anyway, review the question, the last sentence of the stem. I'm reviewing my answer choices here. It's about the heart, obviously, but no, it looks like it's about different parts of the heart, valves, arteries, all of that stuff. So now I'm gonna go back and read my question. Also gonna highlight important parts of the question that is pertinent for me, so I can easily look back on. 35-year-old woman, she has severe right leg pain. Okay, also gives a picture here. So that's always important too. You can always get pictures on these exams, which could be helpful if you know what the heck is going on in the picture. Let's see here. All right, guys, so I just finished this question. Of course, I got it wrong, so, ugh. So I'll show you here, I highlighted what I thought was important. I crossed off things I knew weren't the answer. So I was between the two, obviously picked the wrong one. It happens, we'll get better. Here's the picture, the exhibit that they also attached. So here's the really important part. Okay, so after you complete a question, and this is why I like tutor modes. So after you complete a question, it gives you a whole explanation over here. It goes through exactly what the diagnosis is, and it explains every single answer choice, why it is wrong, and it also gives you the explanation to why the right answers, right? And at the bottom, it gives you this summary, this educational objective, that's kind of like the main takeaway. The educational objective at the bottom is also super clutch because while I'm reading the whole thing right now, right? If I, for instance, want to go back and review questions that I've done like last week or something, sometimes, you know, I don't have time to review that entire explanation, but I just want to quickly get what the point of this question was. So I'll go right to the educational objective and be like, oh yeah, this question was about this was the point, yada, yada, yada. So it's good for like quick review after you've already read the entire explanation one pass. And yeah, like the point is that doing questions is a learning tool, right? It's to test you, it's to also learn from. So obviously I got this question wrong, which is so stupid because like I knew this, but this is the point of reviewing. It's my first day reviewing cardio again, right? Like I now, as I'm reading this explanation, I'm like, wow, I knew that. So the point is that, okay, if I actually do this right, relearn this right, and more importantly, like make the connections as to, you know, why I got it wrong this time and how I can prevent that from happening again if I see this question again, then that's the whole purpose, right? So when doing these questions, I don't get too bogged down in like how many I get right, how many I get wrong, but more importantly, if my thought process was right? Like I knew what this diagnosis was. I literally just picked between the two I was battling with, right? So now that I've read the explanation as to why it was the right answer and why my answer was wrong, I'll remember that going forward, you know? So you use questions as a learning tool, and that's why you spend and why you allocate most of the day during dedicated for answering questions, because at the end of the day, like I said, standardized tests are not always about how much content you can ram up there and remember, but rather how you are applying the content to answer questions. So this is what I'm going to be doing for the next probably 2 hours. So yeah, let's have some fun with questions. All right, you guys, I just finished that block of questions. It was hard as hell. The first day of a like system of going through a specific system in dedicated is always like the toughest because you have yet to see a lot of the content, right? So it's like the percentages be low, but like we said, we don't feed too much into your UWorld percentages, how many questions you're getting right or wrong, because we are still at the purpose of like learning and using questions to learn. So that being said, I'm getting a little hangry, so let's go fetch some lunch, or I guess dinner at this point, early dinner, because the days go late and dedicated, y'all. Let's go. All right, guys, so I got some lunch. I'll show you guys. So it's like some chicken, broccoli, potatoes, regular cafeteria food. Options are limited here. And I don't, you know, on dedicated, like time is key, time is everything. So like whatever's quickest is best, right? Because I'm gonna scarf this down and go right back to studying. So that's that. I also got some wings, some honey mustard wings. The wings are pretty good. So one of the major things about dedicated study period as well is like your productivity levels and your focus. So these are two things that are going to be heavily like tested. Your willpower to focus and your willpower to maintain productivity levels. And those are two things that are really important throughout dedicated. And you really have to like know yourself and know where you stand in those two aspects and plan your day accordingly. So for me, I'm kind of most effective, most productive at like the late morning, early afternoon time. Not a morning person, so the early mornings are not my best. However, in the evening, I'm not a late, like a night owl, so I can stay up pretty late, but I'm not like a night owl as far as that's not when I'm most productive. So I don't like to do like really important studying where I need to use my brain and like really try to like remember things or do high yield things in the evening as well. So for me, it's kind of like that midday range is like where I need to put the bulk of like the important studying. So that's where I put, you know, like the entail of my content review and that first block of questions. So so that's kind of where I'm at in the day. Like I've done those things and now I'm kind of more on like the rest of the day aspect. Also definitely gotta get some snacks. Get those bad boys. What else? Y'all know what I'm getting. Yes, sir. Back to my humble abode. All right, guys, so we are back at it to finish off the day. So it's currently about almost 5 o'clock, which is crazy because I don't know how I got so behind schedule. But typically I don't like to start like my second block of questions this late. But you know, some days it happens, like things happen, you push your schedule, you gotta be flexible. Either way, we're gonna get all the work I want to get done. It's just some days you get it done earlier than others. But there's ample work to do. There's always more studying to do. So it's like, even if you finish what you wanted to finish by 6 p.m., it's not like I'm just gonna take the rest of the day off, you know what I mean? Like, no, I would just study other stuff, like review things I've already studied or like get myself ahead. So getting behind, as long as it's not too behind, like doesn't really matter much in the grand scheme of things. So as far as for the rest of the day, what I do for the second half, as I mentioned before, for my second set of questions for the day, I like to do a mixed block. So the first block of the day is a system specific or content specific block dependent on whatever I'm studying for that day. The second block is a mixed block. So as I am checking off the systems, I will check everything that I've studied to date. So as I was saying, I think it's like less brain power for me because it's not like trying to remember stuff that I just learned like earlier in the day, but rather it's just reviewing stuff I should have already seen and already kind of mastered up to this point, right? So I'm gonna get started on that. Set that up right now. 40 questions, here we go. And we are off to the races. Actually, let me plant my tree first. Which one do I want to plant? Ah, this one's pretty. The last thing I will mention before I actually start is that, so whether or not you study with people or not, totally personal choice, personal preference. What I found is that most people do prefer to study by themselves for the dedicated period. That's not to say that that's how most people do in medical school. I actually, you know, have studied with a group for a lot of medical school. However, when it comes to your dedicated study period for your board exams, because it is such an individual test, like an individual kind of like race, it could be more distracting to like study with somebody. I think it also is a lot of pressure because you could have completely different study plans than somebody else, right? And like you're not really working at a collaborative pace. It's not a collaborative effort. There's really not much conversing that could even be had, you know, like because I might be on cardiology, somebody else might be on you know, like musculoskeletal system. So it's not like we're going to be communicating like, oh, what'd you get for that question or whatnot. So really the only benefit is that it could be somebody to keep you company. But for me personally, as I said earlier, very easily distracted. So even being in the presence of like another person or other people that are quiet and they're focusing on their own, I have found that I'm distracted by every little thing. Or more problematic, I can be the distraction. You know, it's like, oh my God, I want to talk about, you know, the new episode last night, or what do you thought about this that I saw on Instagram? So it goes both ways. So I find that I'm most productive, I am most focused on my own in kind of like isolation, which can be very isolating during dedicated. And this is why there's always discussion about like best practices as far as mental health and wellness during these times, because it can be very stressful, obviously, but more importantly, like students can feel very isolated during their dedicated study time. So with that being said, make sure you are taking care of yourselves throughout that time. I sure am. This is one way I do so right here. So I'm gonna have a like dedicated 15 to lose after, but no, really, like I just prioritize like my sleep, like my wellness. If I want to take a nap, like I take a nap, you know. I'll figure it out as far as how I'm gonna make up the time or content that I miss, but wellness is first and foremost. Like you cannot take care of other people if you do not take care of yourself first. And I think medical students forget this in the rush and the you know, in the hurry to become doctors. And it's just like, we don't realize that what we do now, the behaviors that we pick up now are gonna stick with us, right? Like, so we want to make sure that we're doing like healthy practices, healthy behaviors now, so that when we're even more stressed as doctors, like we have healthy habits to fall back on and not like unhealthy habits. But you know, a good Reese's every now and then never hurt nobody. All right, I'm off, guys. We're not done for the day, but we are done with the required work for the day. The second block was much better. The mixed block obviously gives you a little ego boost, you know, because that first block hurt my spirit, which is another thing during this whole process, is like your mindset and like how you can stay positive and encouraged is everything. Because like studying this stuff and just the repetitive nature of it, the discouraging nature of it sometimes, like if you're not performing how you want to, or remembering things, or getting the questions right you want to, it could really break you down and break your spirit. So like just having some sort of resilience and something that you can kind of tap into, of like to stay positive and to keep grinding, is like super important. So this is the point of the day in which like you could do one of two different things, right? You could totally be done and chill and maybe do something light, but you could review, you could do flashcards, whatever, or you can keep grinding if you have the energy. I have the energy, so I'm going to keep working for now, because I don't like to waste my energy, and I will definitely waste it on things that are not productive. There's plenty of Netflix shows that I'm dying to catch up on, and that's just simply not the priority right now, you know? So I'll do that in 4 weeks. But for right now, I do have some energy, so I'm just gonna continue studying. So what I'm going to do is, so some days I'll do a third question block. So I'll do another 40 questions of like mixed stuff that I've already done. Today though, I am going to do more content review. So I still have some brain power. So I would really like to keep, you know, pushing through some of this cardio, because it's such a thick section. It's such a dense, block. It's a dense system. So I would like to get through a little bit more of the content, so that I am ahead for tomorrow's cardio, right? Since I've only allocated 3 days to it. As much of the content as I can see before I'm doing the questions in the morning is like helpful for me, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to continue with my cardio content review, and watch some videos, refer to my first aid and whatnot, and go from there. So that I'm better prepared for tomorrow, and that tomorrow's question block won't hit me as hard, you know, because I would have seen already more of the content. So that's the plan for right now, and I'll check in with you guys in a bit. All right, friends, I am done for the night here in this building. So it's 9 o'clock and I am going to walk home now. Oh, y'all thought I was done? Child, please. These days are never ending. All I do is literally sleep, study, eat, shower. That's about it. So yeah, so just switching scenery basically. I don't like to stay at the building too late, just because whatever, you know, like I don't want to be out here walking around at like 1 a.m. in the streets. I'm probably not gonna do too much more tonight once I get home, just because I prefer to wake up earlier and start earlier days, rather than to stay up later studying. I just feel like I get more bang for my buck when I go to sleep a little earlier and wake up earlier, rather than stay up later and not really do too much work that's like super productive. So I do not typically prefer to study at home. It is not where I'm most productive. You see right there is my bed, and like I will end up taking a nap. So I do not study here unless I am finishing my day and I'm just home and I want to do some work. But I do like my computer at home. So I love using my computer to study. It's just, I'm just not as productive here. But let me show you guys. Like, I just love my Mac. But as I said, like productivity over everything. Like I'm always going to be an advocate of giving yourself a little in order to get a lot. So if you give yourself a 15-minute break every few hours, if you give yourself a nap here and there in order to give yourself a return on investment of more productivity when you are actually studying, then do it. Like absolutely do it, because burnout is real, you guys, when studying for these exams for weeks on weeks, and you're going literally, what am I on, like hour 12 now? And of course it's not a consistent 12 hours, but it's 12 hours of brain power, right, in some capacity. So when we're talking about doing this for weeks on weeks on weeks, like burnout is real, and like you have to give yourself grace and have to give yourself time and breaks and like whatever you need in order to take care of yourself. So that's why, you know, I do what I do, and I take my breaks and I take my lunch, and you know, I keep going. So I am going to pick up where I left off with the next video and keep this thing moving. Hey friends, so it is about 11 p.m. and your girl is done for the night. So I am not going to bed yet. However, I am done studying, done all things academic. So as you can see, it was an extremely long day. I hope you got some insight into what a day in the life of a medical student in dedicated study period looks like, what we do, and just really how stressful it is. But all that to say, I feel great. Another day down, I feel like I learned a lot. I feel like I'm progressing, and that is the point here. So be sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Be sure to subscribe, join the fam, you guys. Talk about a lot here. So I will see you guys next time. Stay safe, stay well, happy studying.